In this next video, we'll be creating a point-of-care reminder using the CDS trigger functionality in MedAccess. CDS triggers are very useful for chronic disease management and opportunistic screening, as they remind the clinician of what needs to be done on a patient while the patient's in the clinic. For this example, we will be creating a point-of-care reminder for screening, reminding us to screen all of our tobacco users. To begin, let's open up the templates section. And now we'll go to our CDS tab. And you'll see that this is where all the CDS triggers are hiding. And so basically, people can enable these CDS triggers either for the user. So if you click them, typically they're grayed out. And if you want the CDS trigger to apply to you as a user, you can click on it and it becomes green. Or if you've created a trigger that you want everybody to see, once it's created, you're going to right-click on that line and you can enable for everybody, for all users. Okay, so we're going to start by creating a new CDS trigger. And you'll see that this looks very familiar. It's basically the same as the reporting screen in MedAccess. And so there's just a few fields that you really have to worry about for now for this simple trigger. One is the name. So you'll have to give it a name. So we'll call it tobacco use. And the next thing you have to do is decide where you want this trigger to appear. So if you open up this trigger drop down, you'll see that there's all these different places that a trigger can appear, and we're going to go right to the very top, and we want it to appear in patient load, which means it'll come up on that banner when you load the patient's chart. And the next thing you want to make sure and enter is the CDS match message. It means when all of the criteria we ask for matches, what do you want to display? And so in here we're going to write please review tobacco use. And now we'll just go down and enter our criteria. And so we want this for all patients who have an active status. And we're going to do it for all of our physicians. And we only want it on patients over the age of 18. And then you would go down to the observation, and for this you really need to know how smoking is being captured in your clinic. And so once you make sure that you know and you know all the various ways that it could be captured in that particular clinic, then you enter all those different ways. And so we're going to do that by going to the observation section here. And we search observation because this way it doesn't matter if people are documenting in profiles or in the visit, it'll find it. And so in here we're going to say, because we know in this clinic they captured a couple different ways, smoking review. My system's a little slow keeping up here. And we're going to click on the little plus sign, and that allows us to put in another observation. And this clinic captures it one additional way. And of course, it's not best practice to capture it all those different ways, but what's happened is because it's been done this way in the past, we want to make sure and catch them all now. But eventually, as you standardized how you document, then you can just put in the one. Here we'll put tobacco use. And now we're going to go 1 year back on the date. And the only thing we have to remember now is on this banner, on the observation banner, you want to make sure and check off this little not box, because what we're saying is show us the trigger when smoking review has not been done in the past 12 months. Now I'm not going to execute this trigger because this clinic already has it. I'll show you what it looks like. So basically once you create that trigger, and you always have to log out of the system and log back in for some reason in order for a trigger to work. We'll go to a test patient here who hasn't had a smoking review. And basically the triggers show up like this. They're these little reminders. So in this particular clinic, the MOAs do a bunch of the screening opportunistically, and so they're reminded here of everything they have to do when they see the patient. And there's our consider routine tobacco use discussion, which is how this clinic had set up their CDS trigger. And before I sign off, I just want to remind you that in order to get that trigger to work, because I mentioned it at the beginning, you have to make sure and enable that CDS trigger. Either right-click on the line and enable warning for everybody or for a certain group, or if it's for, like I said, in this particular clinic, the MOAs do it, so you could enable this warning just for the MOAs, and it's just by making that little icon green.